Ever since the Dragon Maid video that we put up using the card Duality, I've been on a bit of a chaos kick, trying to find a number of different decks that can use this card, and so far I've been pretty impressed with a number of them. Now, we're going to keep it traditional here to open up with, and we're going to talk about an actual chaos deck. Now, you're going to be looking at this, and you're going to think to yourself, where's my chaos switch, where's my chaos core, where's my chaos what? Those cards suck, right? I'm not going to beat around the bush, they're just bad. The synchro locking is so detrimental. You would almost always rather have the ability to go into links as well as potentially even fusion sometimes, as we can see here. It's simply not worth it. I'm not a fan. Play them if you want. It's just not my speed, right? What we're opting for instead is utilizing the P.U.N.K engine to go into a more consistent access to our Chaos Ruler to make sure that we're able to mill our cards, make sure we're getting access to everything that we possibly need from the deck. This was roughly based off of our zombie deck, the zombie Chaos deck we were playing on stream that we have some sort of clips and things of on the channel. That's where the base idea came from, and then we sort of built upon it with some of our Chaos cards like Valkyria, like the Chaos Twins, like the BYSTIALs, of course, Mirage Dragon, Chaos Space, all these cards. So yeah, it's an absolute blast. I've got a few replays here just to show you the strengths and weaknesses of the deck. It's not perfect, but it's definitely hella strong. I think this is probably going to be stronger than the pure Chaos versions because they're just bad. I'm sorry, they're just bad. But this is going to be a little bit stronger than them. There's a lot of flexibility and some really neat plays you can do with this deck that I don't think you would see coming unless you actually saw it first, right? So watch the gameplay. I will be doing a breakdown at the end of the video, card for card, just in case you're looking at this and there's any cards on here that you're not familiar with, right? Because there's a lot of cards on here that I dare say a lot of people haven't been paying any attention to. So I'm going to go through them all one by one at the end of the video as well. So if you're interested in this style of content as well as anything else that we do here on the channel, feel free to subscribe. It is the best and easiest way to support the channel. You just click the button, it's free, helps you out, helps me out, everybody wins. There's no reason not to do it, so you might as well. And you'll like the video if you actually enjoy watching what you're watching. I'm not going to take up any more time here at the beginning. Let's just get straight into replay number one. Alright, getting into replay number one here, we are going second. And now the deck, basically the way in which it works, it doesn't have a ton of board breakers, and it's not exactly the strongest thing going second, but the deck is entirely made up of gas, and that's the entire idea. We're playing against Sword Soul Kashtira here, which is a pretty solid deck. I really like Sword Soul Kashtira. And this guy fucking nails it, right? His board is incredible. We're going to go for the Shizao here. We're going to draw one off Moyi, search off the Shizao for the Strategist, of course. They're going to use the Strategist, dropping a card. They're going to drop a Taya to summon that Strategist and another token, so they can go into into the Sinister Sovereign here, not Baron de Fleur. So going for that maximum impact, that maximum damage. Realistically, I do think the Sinister Sovereign is in most cases better than Baron de Fleur, except bearing in mind the possibility of board breakers, but this guy had access to Drag Out lined up as well, so he was ready for the majority of board breakers, so he doesn't give a shit, right? He is just full tilt going for it. Rice Heart gonna banish a card, gonna use these two to go into Shangri-La as well. It's a pretty nutty board, and then of course during the standby phase, they are going to play an additional Kashtira monster here, so they're gonna summon from deck, they're gonna summon out Fenrir. So we're looking at the Sinister Sovereign, double banish. Fenrir has the banish. We've got a spell trap negate, we've got a monster negate, we've got an indestructible monster that's going to lock up our zones, and we've even got a face down. So this is a very, very powerful board, very difficult to break, but we're just going to have to give it our best shot. I played Chaos Base early, actually sat and waited for a bit before activating this card just to play mind games with my opponent, making him think that we were using this to bait the Drag Out. So he doesn't actually go for Drag Out here. We're going to drop the Black Dragon Collapse. I'm going to grab the Bestial Labellion from the deck, which is good. We're going to use Labellion now. We're going to see if we can grab ourselves a Baldric or a Drissworm, which we do. We're going to summon the Drissworm by banishing the Black Dragon from the grave. That's going to be met with the Sinister Sovereign, and I knew that was going to happen. That's why we did it. This guy, by using the Sinister Sovereign to banish this guy, means that he's freeing himself up from the possibility of being sent to the graveyard off of its effect, right? So it makes total sense that he banished that, absolutely. We do get the draw one, which is sort of the whole idea. Normal summons the Yaman, going to grab ourselves an Ogre Dance so we can reveal it off the Deer Note, and we're going to use that to summon the Deer Note out to the field. And we're going to get hit with Blackout. That is terrible here. Taking out the Sovereign after it's used its effect. He got everything he needed out of this card, and now he's able to get rid of it. Pop both our cards. We're going to use the Deer Note Engraved to bring back the Ogre Dance that was in the grave. We're going to go for Chaos Valkyria here. I was a little bit... He was holding on the Fenrir here, and I knew he was, so I sort of thought to myself, do we keep on playing and risk the Fenrir? I decided in the end, no, it's best we just go battle phase to clear that shit out. We still, of course, have the Grandmaster and the Ryzen to compete against. We're going to go for the Assault Synchron going into Baron de Fleur. This is going to be a big board-breaking duel here, targeting and destroying the Dragite, being met with the Shizao Negate. That's fine. We're just going to activate Baron's Negate to clear that thing out as well. We're going to clear out 2 for the price of 1. He does banish Blackout from the graveyard, which does mean he'll be able to summon a token in his field, and he does have the Shangri-La, which would be a defensive bastion if we didn't have the Baldrake on the hand. Going into the Chaos Angel, using the Chaos Valkyria, which is a light, and our level 6 Dark Baldrake. That means we've got a full power Chaos Angel, banishing that Shangri-La off the board, and now we've got an unaffected board, protected from battle destruction, and it's just absolutely brutal. We're going to tag our Baron out here for our Deer Note. They're going to go into Taya normal summon into Draco Berserker. Man's fought. He had the play, going into the battle phase, realizing he can't get over our Deer Note thanks to the Chaos Angel, and promptly surrendering. So there you go. That's us absolutely dismantling a Kashtira Swordswell board. Probably the best one I've ever fucking seen, right? Short of Protoss. But then again, Protoss is kind of mid right now anyways. But yeah, absolutely nuts. Really well played from our opponent. They set up a fantastic board, but unfortunately simply wasn't enough in the game number 2. All I know about this replay is that it's against Labyrinth and that it's 1 turn long. I can't actually remember what happens. We're going to go for Xiamen here off the rip. Xiamen grabbing Foxy Tomb from deck. We're going to use the Foxy Tomb dropping itself as well as the Black Dragon to summon Deer Note. Going to go Chaos Ruler off of our P.U.N.K cards. That's going to trigger the Chaos Ruler, of course, the mill 5. Deer Note to bring back the Foxy Tomb from the graveyard. Having a 2-level ace is really big because it allows you to go into the Zombie Vampire, right? Zombie Vampire milling additional cards is exactly what a Chaos deck wants. We're going to check the top 5 of the deck. I believe from this pile we hit the Assault Synchron. We do. Very valuable card. Really want to hit that whenever you can. Saronir going to mill a Bestial Rebellion for later on in the turn. We're going to go for the Zombie Vampire next. Zombie Vampire going to mill an additional 4 from both players' decks. Going to grab from among them the Saronir, revealing the Chandelier in his grave. We're going to summon out the Assault Synchron using these 2 to go into the Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon, bringing back the Assault Synchron that we just sent to the grave. So we can use that to link summon into Sprite Elf. Sprite Elf's going to bring back that Assault Synchron yet again, and this is just a demonstration of how absolutely crazy this deck is and how it just continues to play the game past anybody giving it permission to. We are going to go into the Chaos Ruler here, banishing Light and Dark from the graveyard to summon it out to the field. We're going to banish it now to summon out the Bestial Rebellion. The Bestial Rebellion then is going to, of course, trigger off the Assault Synchron when it's sent to the grave. Sorry, when our Chaos Ruler is banished to bring back the Chaos Ruler. Bestial Rebellion setting up a branded regain from the deck. We're going to go Duality now, tagging out the Rebellion for the Borreload Furious Dragon, using Duality, shuffling back a Light and a Dark to draw 1 as well, drawing in the Shinobi Necro, going for Chaos Space, dropping the Shinobi Necro, and our opponent just scoops. What I'm trying to get across is how absolutely nuts this deck can be when it comes to combo potential. If you want a freestyle deck that's just going to have plays for fucking days, you want to be able to just walk over your opponent with that crazy amount of huge boss monsters, having that constant card advantage from the Chaos Space, the Duality, constantly drawing you additional cards and everything. This is definitely the deck for you. I have an absolute blast every time I play this, because you can do shit like this, right? We were going to continue to combo off like crazy, even if he had let us do it. We had so many more plays lined up. But unfortunately, he had seen enough. I wanted to include that because fuck Labyrinth, right? Fuck Labyrinth. Any chance we get to beat them, I'll absolutely take it. But let's get into game number 3. Alright, so getting into game number 3, we're going to go Maxi off the rip. They're of course going to have the Crossout Designator. I tend not to show replays often where we resolve Maxi into decks because usually those games are pretty unfair. So most of the time, if we do actually have Maxi in hand, chances are they're going to negate it, right? Gonna go for some standard go-to plays here, looking into some fish. Very interesting duel this was. You don't often see these guys floating around, and it's pretty interesting how we play around them. They're going to go Minaruka here, using the Abyss Shark, summoning it out to the field. Now they're going to grab another Minaruka from the deck. They're going to use their 2 monsters here to go into the number 4 Stealth Kraken. Stealth Kraken's a unique adversary because it changes all of the attributes of the monsters in the field to water, right? Which is actually pretty bad for us because we kind of want light and dark. That's actually a big deal. It doesn't hurt us too much, but he definitely has set it up pretty well here where he's got the Stealth Kraken, and he also has 2 level 4s and a level 2 tuner for a quick play synchro. We do resolve Maxi here during our turn. We're going to go E-Telly now. E-Telly summoning out the Xiamen from the deck. He's going to very quickly pop that before even giving us a chance to activate absolutely the right play from our opponent, 100%. We're going to go for Drissworm here. Drissworm banishing the Bestial Rebellion to summon itself out to the field. We're going to go Assault Synchron as well, being met with Shift's effect. Now, this is very interesting. Shift basically is going to summon a Goatee of the Deep Beyond. Now, this card, when summoned during your opponent's turn, is going to wipe the board. And that's going to clear out our Assault Synchron and our Drissworm, sorry, before we even get a chance to use them. Normal Summon Shinobi, go into the Mirage, and just like that, we're BAU. We're business as usual. This is absolutely nothing else. We're going to go into the Chaos Ruler off of the Shinobi Necro and our Baldric. We're going to now use its effect, checking the top 5 cards of the deck. There's a Deer Note, which is unfortunate. There's a Chaos Valkyria and a Black Dragon, though. Both of those cards are great because we can banish the Valkyria for the Black Dragon using its effect to send the Bestial Rebellion onto the grave. Now, something to note, we're going to talk about this later on. Chaos Valkyria, it sends a monster from deck to graveyard when it's banished, but you can't activate that monster's effect. However, the Bestial Rebellion summoning himself from the graveyard is not an effect. He can summon himself just inherently. So you can still summon the Rebellion if you send it to the graveyard, which is worth noting. We're going to go the Black Dragon here, of course, searching for the White Dragon because it was sent to the grave. Summoning the White Dragon, going to swing in 17, 1k. We could have done way more here. We could have done way more, but I really wanted to use Duality to finish the game, tagging out the Chaos Ruler for the Stardust Spark Dragon and finishing him off with the 2500 from the Stardust Spark Dragon. We could have gone crazy, we could have continued to play the game like nuts, but I really wanted to use Duality to finish the game, and I didn't want him to surrender. So, there we are. 3 pretty solid games, shows off a lot of the plays. Anyone who's been following the channel for a while sort of is vaguely familiar with many of these Chaos plays, because it is something that we use quite a bit. But yeah, pretty nice to see it all in one place. Let's get into the deck profile. Now, this goes without saying, but Chaos, more than basically any other deck in the game, doesn't necessarily have a right way to play it, and that's definitely something worth bearing in mind, because some people are going to pick this deck up, and they're going to absolutely love it, they're going to go 10-0, they're going to kill the competition, right? And then other people are going to pick this up, and they're going to go 0-10, and they're going to complain, they're going to suck, right? And that's mostly down to how you build it, because different people like it in different ways. So, for example, if you wanted the P.U.N.K combo to be more consistent, you would bump up your Foxy-Tune, you play the Sharkusai and the whole Raising Carb nonsense and whatever. There's a whole bunch of things you can do to customize it. You could even play some of the other Chaos cards to sort of try and spice things up. But ultimately, however you decide to play it, it's going to be pivotal around the exact same sort of concepts, right? So we're going to talk about the deck, first of all, the one that we were using, and I'll give you some ideas for what you can use in the future if you want to actually sort of change it up a wee bit. But for now, this is what we were using. First and foremost, auxiliary cards. Triple Maxi, of course. Triple Ash Blossom, of course. Call By and Crossout, all virtually mandatory cards. Again, you're summoning a lot in this deck, so you really don't want to be playing around with Maxi too much. Getting into the actual main deck itself, we've got the P.U.N.K engines. We'll talk about that first of all. 3 copies of Xiamen, 1 copy of Foxy-Tune, 1 copy of Deer Note, and 1 copy of Ogre Dance. The bare minimum P.U.N.K package that you need to consistently get into your combo. We are, of course, also playing the 2 copies of Emergency Teleport. That is the bare minimum of P.U.N.K, right? That is what you kind of need. If you want to make it more consistent without going down the Sharkusai route, you can play additional copies of Ogre Dance because you're not really playing any other normal summons. So you could play additional copies of Ogre Dance to make it a little bit more consistent, or you could even go down the Sharkusai route, which makes your Foxy-Tune into a 1-card combo, which makes that even more consistent. Or you could do both, right? You could full send it on P.U.N.K to make the Chaos Ruler play as consistent as possible, although it does eat away from some of your other plays. So, you know, play around with it, experiment, do whatever you want to do, but do bear in mind that it is a balancing act, right? You need to have the balance. Sometimes I felt like we made and needed additional P.U.N.K cards, but a lot of the time we were able to make up for that disparity with Bestials quite handily anyway, so it's up to you. I'll very briefly explain what they do. Basically, Xiamen here is a level 3 Psychic Tuner monster, and you can pay 600 life points to grab a P.U.N.K monster from your deck and add it to your hand. That's why we're playing 3 of it. It's summonable off of E-Telly as well. E-Telly, that's the only real reason we're even playing this card. What your Xiamen does is it searches your deck for Foxy-Tune. Foxy-Tune, being a level 8 light monster, is super important. It being a light monster in particular is big. This is the most consistent way of putting a light into grave for your Chaos Ruler later on in the game. And it even being level 8 is also really useful for a lot of your Exceed plays later on. So do bear that in mind. Even just its inherent attributes are useful. But its effect, of course, is it's a big thing, like many cards are. Basically, you can activate it in the hand, you can discard this and another card to special out a Punk monster from your deck, as long as it's not level 8. The Punk monster you're going to summon is, of course, the Deer Note. Deer Note can special summon itself from the hand, first of all. If you just hard open it, you reveal it and another Punk, send one to grave and summon the other. And if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, part of a synchro summon or by battle or whatever it is you need to do to get it to the graveyard, you get to target a Punk monster in your grave and bring it back from the graveyard. But it can't, of course, be another copy of Deer Note. So essentially the way it works is that, again, you've seen it in the gameplay, but you'll Xiamen, grab Foxy Toon, summon the Deer Note, use these two to win the Chaos Ruler. Chaos Ruler does its whole thing, and then the Deer Note will bring back either your Foxy Toon, or if you were lucky enough to get an Ogre Dance in there before, then Ogre Dance, but one of your level 8s. And then you can use your level 8 Punk monster and the Chaos Ruler that you just summoned to go into your Zombie Vampire. That means one Xiamen by itself, just one card combo, gives you 9 mills. You mill 5 off Chaos Ruler, mill 4 off the Zombie Vampire, 9 mills in total. Which is nuts, right? Crazy. And it also puts Chaos Ruler in your graveyard for follow-up, puts some monsters on board, potentially 2 monsters from having this, as well as an additional follow-up from something that discards summons. Talk about that later. But basically, Xiamen by itself, mill 9, and you put 2 monsters on board while having Chaos Ruler in grave. That is just phenomenal, right? That is insane when it comes to any Chaos-based strategy. So I definitely think you need to play the Punk cards, at least in some capacity. And from here, knowing where to go from here is tough, because the deck is kind of all over the place. We'll talk about the BYSTIALs next. We have 2 Labellion, 1 Magnuma, 2 Saronir, 1 Drissrum, 2 Baldric, pretty standard. We got 1 Branded Regained. We're not playing the Branded Beast. You could play Branded Beast if you wanted to, but I really was just aiming on just full gas through sort of playing this deck. I was just full tilt, sending it, and Beast often slowed us down more often than helped us. So I think Regained in this particular deck is better, but you could play both. You could get away with both if you wanted to. Very briefly talking about them, we got Labellion, which will discard itself to grab yourself any BYSTIAL from deck to hand. You can summon this card from your hand or graveyard by tributing a level 6 or higher Dark Dragon you control. And you can actively play a branded continuous spell or trap face up onto your field from your deck once per turn. So it'll just grab your Branded Regained straight from your deck, which is very handy. Then you have the BYSTIAL monsters themselves, which of course can be special summoned from the hand by banishing a light or a dark monster from either player's graveyard as a quick effect if your opponent controls a monster, which is nice. Good for disruption, but generally speaking, you're not really going to be banishing too many of your opponent's things. We're not really in a very dark-centric meta right now, or like a light-centric meta. It's very, there's a bit of variety going around with the Kashtira deck in particular, sort of ruling the roost, if you will. Although Pearly and like Labyrinth and things are also ridiculously popular, I think Labyrinth is low-key like the best deck in the game. And this is the BYSTIALs don't like crush Labyrinth, but they're able to snipe furniture pieces, they're able to snipe the Ku Klok, they're able to snipe the lovelier lady from the graveyard and things. They come in clutch sometimes against Labyrinth in particular. But you really just want them from the fact that they're special summons and that they're all level 6 dark monsters, right? Which is absolutely huge. They all also can have effects as well. Magnamut, when on the turn it's special summoned, you grab a dragon from deck to hand at the end of that turn. Saronir, when sent to the graveyard, will mill a BYSTIAL monster or a branded spell trap. Drissrum, when sent from field to grave, will target a special summoned monster your opponent controls and send it to grave. And Baldric can react to an opponent's special summon of an extra deck monster, be it Ritual, Fusion, Synchro Exceed, or Link. You can tribute another light or dark you control to banish that card. Pretty straightforward stuff. And we have Branded Regained, which is honestly kind of the card that gives the BYSTIALs, it gives the BYSTIALs a shitload of card advantage. I think this card is super underrated. And the thing is, like, not only I'm saying it's underrated, it's not as if people don't get it. Like, people already really like this card, and I still think it's underrated. It's so fucking good. Basically, once per turn, first of all, once per turn if your opponent summons a monster, you get to summon a BYSTIAL from grave. Right away, super great value. But its other effect, if a light or dark monster is banished, you get to return that card to the deck to draw 1, right? That's either player's field. It could be, you could be banishing one of their cards and sending their card back to draw 1. Just once per turn, it's an extra draw once per turn, which is just amazing. It's a great way of recycling resources as well. So everything about this card is just great. And that's the BYSTIALs. Apologies for the coarseness of my throat if I'm a little bit short of breath. So everything else, fuck, I guess we just have to tackle the rest of the deck now. So we have our tuners. I'll talk briefly about the tuners. The 1 Shinobi Necro, double Assault Synchron, and 3 copies of tuning. All level 2 Dark tuners, of course, you can see that they're all level 2s. Very important because you want to be going into level 8s and level 10s. So you definitely want your tuners to be level 2. Assault Synchron is the better of them. Of course, being able to special summon itself from hand by paying 700 life points is very, very solid. And a large part of what makes it good is the fact that you can search for it off of tuning. Tuning is a phenomenal searching spell card. Basically allows you to grab an Assault Synchron from deck and then you mill a card from the top of your deck to the grave. So you get to mill one, search one, and it's not limited once per turn. There's no cost, there's no discard, there's no nothing. This card's fucking brutal. So good. And then you have Shinobi Necro. Shinobi Necro will basically, if this card is banished from your graveyard by a card effect, not as cost. I make this mistake all the time. Do not banish this card off of the Wyvern Burster expecting to summon it. It does not work. That is cost. This needs to be banished by an effect. Bear that in mind. But basically, if it's banished from the graveyard by a card effect, summon it from the banish pile. Pretty great stuff. Just in working alongside your Bestials, that's just great. Being able to normal summon this, link it off in the Mirage, then banish it from the graveyard off of Bestial to bring out your Chaos Ruler is just disgusting, right? It's nuts. Getting into the generic Chaos cards then, we of course have the Chaos Twins, the Black Dragon and the White Dragon. These guys will summon themselves from the hand by banishing, special summon from the hand by banishing a monster of their opposing attribute. So light will banish dark, dark will banish light. And when one of them is sent to the graveyard, you search for the other. So if you send White Dragon to the grave, you grab Black Dragon. Black Dragon goes to the grave, you grab White Dragon. It's a great little card advantage loop, especially with the likes of Chaos Space and Striker Dragon in your extra deck. It's just a great way of looping card advantage. So yeah, bear that in mind. Chaos Valkyria. This card you can special summon it from hand by banishing either a light or a dark from the graveyard. If this card itself is ever banished, you can send a light or dark monster from your deck to the graveyard, but you can't activate the effects or the effects of cards with same name as the one that you sent. Now this is especially good working alongside the likes of the Bestial Lubellion, because this card does not need to activate its effect to special summon itself from grave. That is an inherent summon. So you can send it off of Valkyria and then you can still tribute a Bestial to special summon it. It just means that you won't be grabbing Branded Regained from deck. But if you need a duality target, if you need to go into Chaos Angel, if you need to do any of those things, you can still summon the Bestial Lubellion even after sending it to the graveyard. So do bear that in mind. You can also do, if you already have something like Branded Regained, it's an excellent way of putting the Bestial Drissworm into the graveyard so that you can resummon this during your opponent's turn off of the Regained, for example. So there's quite a lot of niche applications of this card. It is a level 4 light monster, which does put it in a unique position in the deck because it works alongside your Bestials then to go into a full power Chaos Angel, because these of course are dark, these are light. Chaos Angel needs one of each to be at full power. So it being a light level 4 also puts it in a unique position alongside the White Dragon, so another reason as to why it's used. Another light level 4 tuner is the Chaos Mirage Dragon. This card is honestly pretty underwhelming. I'm not super impressed by this card. I'm very, very ridiculously tempted to just take it out, purely because it can't be searched off of Chaos Space. If this card could be searched off Chaos Space, it would be so much better. But it can't. Basically, you can target a light or dark banished monster, special summon it to your field, but for the rest of that turn, you're locked into light and dark synchro summoning only from the extra deck. So that means no link plays, no Borreload, nothing fancy, no Axel synchro, there's no Baron. So it does definitely limit your plays quite significantly. And there's like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 monsters in your extra deck you can summon during that turn. Not great. So yeah, not fantastic, but if this card is used as synchro material and sent to the graveyard, you can destroy cards your opponent controls up to the number of other monsters used for its summon. So if you were to use it for the likes of a Chaos Angel, you get to basically bump your Banish 1 up to Banish 1 and Pop 1. Neat, right? By and large, I'm not a fan of this card. I would recommend, maybe if you're looking to keep your deck as consistent as possible, I would definitely recommend cutting it. I was playing it, and luckily I didn't draw it enough for it to be enough of a problem for me to take out. I just never saw it, but I know if I did see it, I wouldn't like it. So, to each their own. Some people really love that card, and I can see why if you're playing more of a blind second version. I get it, going into the likes of the Chaos Archfiend and stuff, 100%. It's just not what we were doing. And is there anything else other than, of course, our main event cards? We do have Foolish Burial and Gold Sark because they're both really solid cards. Foolish Burial is definitely better than Gold Sark, but you're able to put the likes of Shinobi Necro into the grave, or a Bestial Rebellion, or just something in general to banish off of a Bestial or something. And then Gold Sark is especially useful alongside the likes of the Chaos Valkyria. It can also manually trigger off the likes of Branded Regained, for example. There's not a ton of utility behind Gold Sark. It's primarily for Valkyria, or originally, again, putting up a target in your banish pile for the Chaos Mirage Dragon. If you had this, you use Gold Sark to banish a monster, then this guy brings it back and you can Synchro Summon. That was kind of the idea, but if you're cutting Mirage, I would definitely be tempted to cut Gold Sark as well, because it's not bad, but it doesn't present a ton of value to you, so I would maybe cut this too, which I'm sure some of you are happy about, right? One less you are in the deck. And lastly, of course, Chaos Space and Duality. These are two of the cards that actually make the deck work. So Chaos Space allows you to drop a light or a dark from hand. You get to grab a light or a dark of the opposing attribute from your deck to your hand, so long as it is between the levels 4 and 8, and it cannot be normal summoned or set. So you'll be grabbing one of your Chaos Twins, your Valkyria, or your Lebellion, essentially. That's what you'll be grabbing. One of the opposing attribute. There are some other useful targets. If you want to play like the Chaos Dragon Levianeer, you can. You want to play Levianeer? By all means, you totally can. You can play the Emperor Dragon as well. You can play BLS. You can do all sorts of things. They're all Chaos Space targets. As long as they can't be normal summoned or set, they're good to go. This card also has the ability, if you have a banished light or dark monster that cannot be normal summoned or set, you can banish this card from the graveyard, target that monster, shuffle it back into the deck, and then draw one. That is an excellent way of getting one extra draw per turn and just stacking card advantage and recycling key resources. So that little +1, it goes a long fucking way. Trust me, the amount of times I've drawn in the Maxi off of this or something like that is insane. And now with the deck having Duality, it's not the only +1 of its kind. So now this is just, we're just stacking draws and stacking card advantage. One off a Chaos Space and one off Duality as well. This is the card. It's not necessarily a new card. It's newer than other cards, but it's been around for a while. It just hasn't been explored a lot in the meta, because again, the decks that are good at the minute just don't really lend themselves to it. And I really think they missed an opportunity with the Chaos cards. This is a tangent. This is a slight tangent, right? But imagine how much better this card would be if this was a light monster, right? Or if Chaos Angel was, I guess, like a light monster, and if this Witch was a dark monster, right? And the reason I'm saying that is because the way this card works is you get to tribute a light or a dark monster you control, then you special summon another light or dark monster from your hand or extra deck with the same type and level, but a different original attribute. So you tag out a dark for a light for a dark. And the reason that it annoys me about these Chaos cards is because this is a fairy. They're all light. Why not make this dark so I can tribute a light fairy to summon it, right? Same with the Chaos Archfiend. Make this a light. You're a fiend. Make it light so I can tribute a dark fiend to go into it, right? I know they're made in different eras. They weren't expecting the print Duality, whatever. But I'm just saying. So in lieu of those cards, because unfortunately they just don't work really well with the card, we're instead using it to go into the likes of the Borreload Furious Dragon, being able to tag out the Bestial Rebellion or the Stardust Spark Dragon to go into the Borreload Furious Dragon. It does also offer us a unique ability to allow our Chaos Ruler to dodge things like targeted negation, like Veiler, Imperm, the likes of that, which normally would really hurt your turn, because you can, basically when you activate it, if they were to chain something to target and negate you, you can use Duality to tribute your Chaos Ruler to summon out the Stardust Spark Dragon. There's not a ton of great, like, light targets for level 8 extra deck. You'd think there would be, but there isn't. They're mainly Exceed monsters, not really Synchro and Fusion, and it needs to be the same level, which means no Exceeds. But yeah, it's still a decent enough card, and the idea is that you can use it to help your Chaos Ruler dodge targeted negation. That's the big thing. But yeah, and this card also, just like Chaos Space, has a second effect that helps you maintain advantage. If this is in the grave, you target a light and a dark in grave, shuffle both into the deck, and then you get to draw a card. That's so good. Yeah, everything about Duality is just excellent in decks like this, and I do really want to play with this card more. It's really good. I guess now we've just got the extra deck to talk about. Of course, we've already talked about the Borreload Furious Dragon being a Duality target off of Lebellion. This card is basically DPE at home, as it's known. As a quick effect, you can target a monster you control and any card your opponent controls and destroy both. Pretty handy card. Start a Spark Dragon once per turn. Quick effect can make a face-up card in your field resist being destroyed by battle or card effects once. So it's not like immune for the whole turn, but the first time it would be destroyed, it's immune, right? Which is kind of neat, but it's primarily here for its attribute and level and typing to help Chaos Ruler dodge negation, because Chaos Ruler really is the crux around which the deck works, right? If this card's summoned, you get to check the top 5 of your cards, top 5 cards of your deck to check for a light or a dark monster, add one of them to your hand, and the rest of the cards go to the graveyard. That by itself is amazing, but he does have a second effect as well, where if he's in the graveyard, you can banish both a light and a dark to special summon him back to the field, which makes him a sort of a recurring level 8 boss monster as well, so that's just incredible. The Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon on summon, bringing out a level 2 tuner from the graveyard is great. Again, just helps you either go into Sprite Elf, helps you go into Harbinger, helps you go into your Zombie Vampire sometimes, helps you go into your level 10 Synchros like the Baron. Just a really good card, just excellent value on this card, honestly. Speaking of value, we got Baron, having that one spell face up on the negate, being able to pop a card once per turn in your turn as well. Really aggressive card, absolute great staple. Everything about Baron is just really good. The best generic level 10 in my opinion. Chaos Angel though is not too far behind. The Chaos Angel feels amazing in this deck in particular. Basically, on summon you get to target a lighter... on summon you get to target a monster or a card in the field, and just banish it. So it's got on summon removal too. 3500 attack, and it gains additional effects depending upon the attributes of the monster you use for its summon. If you use a light monster, all of your synchro monsters are unaffected by your opponent's activated monster effects. And if you use a dark monster, your monsters can't be destroyed by battle. Meaning if you use one of each, you get both of those effects. And the thing about this guy is that if you're using only light and dark monsters for its summon, you don't even need a tuner. That's the crazy part. So if you have like your Valkyria and your Baldrake or your Bestials or whatever, none of these guys are tuners, but you can still summon the Chaos Angel because they're all light and dark. Excellent card. Psychic Gem Punisher is a fallback plan. As long as you have less life points than your opponent, this guy's unaffected by your opponent's activated card effects. During your turn, once per turn, you can pay 1000 life points to banish a monster you control and a card your opponent controls. And lastly, at the beginning of the battle phase, he gains life points equal to the difference between... He gains attack points equal to the difference between your life points. I have not had enough caffeine this morning. Then we've got the Harbinger, once per turn spell negate and can redirect attacks, pretty great, generic, rank 8. We've got the Zombie Vampire, which can detach a material to mill 4 cards from the top of either player's deck, and you get to pick any monster among those 8 cards and special summon it to your field. Pretty handy, gives you a lot of information on what your opponent's playing, gives you a free monster in most cases, and helps put additional resources into your graveyard. Now that tier limits have sort of died down, I know they're still around, they're not quite as impactful as they were once upon a time though, so now that tier limits have kind of died off a little bit, the Zombie Vampire does feel a lot better than it used to. For a little while it was a death sentence, right? Being able to mill your opponent's cards, it was dicey territory, but now it feels a lot better. Mirage, exclusively here for the Shinobi Necro. Basically, it allows you to, in real sort of niche situations, if you absolutely must, you can normal summon your Shinobi Necro, link it off into Mirage, then banish it from the graveyard for a Bestial to then resummon this card, and there's your level 8 Synchro, right? There's your Chaos Ruler. Because of this, you would, if you wanted to play like a bigger deck, you would probably want to play additional copies of the Shinobi Necro. It does kind of conflict with the P.U.N.K cards though, so you know, you do you. It really is up to yourself. Striker Dragon here exclusively to work with your Chaos Twins. If you summon one of them, you can link it off in the Striker Dragon to trigger its search effect to grab the other, and then you can summon the other, and suddenly you've got 2 monsters on board, and you haven't even used your normal summon yet. So that could be useful in terms of potentially link climbing. We don't play a lot of great things to link climb into though, so it's not the most essential card, but I like card advantage. It's neat. Masquerena, generic link monster, link summon during your opponent's turn. And what are you link summoning into? Well, either the Unicorn to spin back an opponent's card on summon,